Hey everyone, how's it going? Five Finger Shuffle. We are back here with another video, and we have a surprise for you today. They released next week's update information in terms of the hero balancing. So you can check this out in game. Just go to your notes section, and it's all in there. But I'm gonna go through and kind of react to this for you. I'm really excited. Actually, we were talking about this on stream today, trying to guess who we thought would be affected. The most common units that people were saying were DN, ML Ken, Shadow Rose, Assassin Cartusia, and Flurry. We kind of went over it, and I was like, you know what? ML Ken and DN are never going to get touched. People would rage too hard. So I think they're probably going to stay the same, but the other three, I would think, are going to probably get a hit here, so we'll see what happens. First off though, awakening effect improvements. So when you go to awaken a unit, it tells you, like, for example, effectiveness will be increased by 6%. Now that same awakening, instead of increasing by 6%, is going to be 12%. Or if it says 3%, it'll increase to 6%. So this is effectively going to make units much easier to gear, especially in terms of effectiveness. The crit damage is nice, and the crit, even like the crit chance, it's an extra like 2% or 1%. It's not bad, but particularly that effectiveness is really, really strong. That extra 6% on your higher tier units is going to be amazing. So I kind of like that. Makes units much easier to gear long term. Oh, there she is. So right away, first one on the list, Falconer Flurry. What a surprise. So let's see what they did to her. The Flurry flies. Oh, that's before. So cooldown will be increased by 1 turn on Flurry attack. So that makes sense. That was one of the suggestions that we mentioned. That doesn't surprise me at all. Flurry attack, basically preventing her from using her crazy provoke defense break skill a little bit more. And the trust rune effect has been changed. Has a chance 15% max to be granted an extra turn at the end of the turn. Instead of that, it's been changed to has a 10% chance to increase combat readiness of the caster by 50%. Okay, that's pretty big too. That's 2 big nerfs to Flurry. That's pretty huge in terms of Guild War and Arena defense. So she can no longer go 2 turns in a row, and the chance is decreased from 15% to 10%. Instead of going 2 turns in a row, she'll just get a 50% CR boost. So it's still really nice. Like, when it procs, it's going to be amazing. But decreased chance to proc, and it's not going to do as much. And on top of that, like, the thing that was nice about it, it was reducing the cooldown of Flurry attack. So now Flurry attack is further away, and you can't proc to reduce the cooldown. So that's actually, essentially, it's nerfing her Flurry attack by more than 1 turn. It's like a turn and a half now instead of 1 turn. So that's really interesting. I wonder how that's going to affect her long term. Interesting. I use her a lot, so I agree she probably needed to be balanced a little bit, but that's pretty big. I'm not upset about it. I'm actually mad at my Flurry at the moment because she has 95% effectiveness and missed back-to-back defense breaks in Guild War today, so she deserves it. Anyway, Specimen says, I don't have Specimen says, but I know a lot of people have been calling for a buff for him. Let's see what they did. Stun effect chance for Dreamy Iron Mace will be increased. It's nice. I think that's his first skill. So from 35% up to 50%. Buff's a buff. It's not huge. I'm sure it's not what people are looking for, but let's see what else they did to him. Evil Claws. Attacks all enemies with Evil Claws. Increasing caster's combat readiness by 50%. And that's going to be changed to... Alright, so the skill's going to be left the same, except it's also got an added effect where it has a 30% chance to stun. So that's kind of nice. AoE stun, low chance, only 30%. but still AoE stun for a unit that penetrates defense based on if the unit is stunned. So adding more stuns to your team, you won't necessarily need to bring a crazy stun comp because he's got stuns already. Oh, they buffed Spectre Tenebria. That's good. I'll get into that in a second. Let me finish Poor Specimen says. So, attacks the enemy with Light Storm. If the enemy is stunned, penetrates defense. That's what it does currently. What it's going to change to is... Okay, so same skill, except another added effect. If he kills somebody, the cooldown of this skill resets completely. So, say you land an AoE stun, you could keep using this over and over and over. So, kill somebody, kill somebody, kill somebody. As long as you kill someone, you can keep using this skill as many times as you want. So that's really interesting. Keep in mind they do have to be stunned, so you still probably want to bring stuns with him, but I think that's going to make him really, really strong for PvP. So that's exciting. Congratulations to anyone who has Specimen Says. That makes him really strong. That's a huge buff. Alright, so here's the Spectre Tenebria story. I have pulled 2 ML 5 stars, one from my 10-10 summon at the very beginning of the game, and then recently I pulled another one, and they were both Spectre Tenebria. And I will speak from experience, she is basically a 3-star in a 5-star costume. She's one of the worst units in the game. She's really, really bad. I would probably consider Raz to be ranked higher on the tier list than her. So let's see what happened. So this is... Actually, you know what? Let me pull her up here, because this is a big one for me personally. Hopefully her buff is as good as Specimen Says. So Poison Blast. First, that's her first skill. Attacks with an explosion of poison energy, 50% chance to inflict poison for 2 turns. I mean, realistically, this is really bad. You're never going to skill it up all the way to... It takes 6 skill ups to get that up that high to the 70%. Or no, it doesn't, sorry. It takes 4 skill ups, but it doesn't do much damage, so like, doing 4 skill ups to get 20% poison chance is kind of meh. Like, it's never going to happen. So basically a 50% chance. And it's weak. Like, do you really... I'm not going to go any further into it. Poison Blast damage will be increased by 20%. Like, it already doesn't do much damage, so who cares? It's a buff's a buff, and it's a little bit more damage from her first skill, but it's kind of bad already. So, I could care less about that skill. Or that buff. So this second skill, though, is a passive. So currently, her passive is weird. When an enemy is debuffed, the range of Poison Blast, which is her first skill, extends to 2 enemies, which means she can essentially, potentially poison 2 people. Well, it says, yeah. So it can potentially poison 2 people. Damage dealt by poisoned enemies is decreased by 20%. So if you're attacking a boss and they have poison, this passive reduces the inflicted damage on you. So it's a very weird skill. I don't like it, to be honest. It doesn't really do much because it's only affecting her. It doesn't... It's not... I don't know. I don't really... It doesn't really do anything. So, when this effect is granted more than once, only strongest effect applied. So, not a very good skill, but they are changing it. Let's see what they change it to. Caster can't be targeted if allied heroes remain. Alright, so can't be targeted. Is that going to be like stealth? Except permanent stealth? That's interesting. I don't know how that's going to work if you were trying to use her in Arena. Because I would assume all your heroes are remaining, so you just can't attack her? Like, I don't know how that's going to work. We'll have to test it out. Every time someone is defeated, the caster's attack and defense will increase by 7% upgradable to 10% and can stack up to 5 times. So if I'm reading this correctly, I don't know. Comment down in the comment section below if I'm getting this wrong. But does that mean, say I'm bringing her into raid, and I'm going to attack the queen. Does that mean that every hero along the way will give her a stack up to 5 times, and she's going to keep that even though I've passed through one attack onto the next attack? Like, is she going to be able to keep that stack the whole time? Because obviously up to 5 times, there's only 4 units. You could only stack it up to 3 times in Arena, because you could only kill 3 people. And does she have to be the one to kill them in order to get the stack? Or can the unit just die? I don't know. I have a lot of questions about this skill, but if I'm reading it correctly, caster can't be targeted if the ally heroes remain. That part's we have to test as well. But every time someone is defeated, the caster's attack and defense will increase by 7%, capped out at 10%, which means if you max that skill, can stack up to 50%. So she could give herself a 50% attack buff and defense buff, and not be, well, the defense buff won't matter if she can't be targeted. I wonder if that's can't be targeted or can't land the target debuff on her. I don't know. I don't get it. But if it could potentially be a 50% attack buff, that would be nice. Attack buff and defense buff. That wouldn't apply to Arena really at all. But in something like Raid, that could be helpful. Interesting. All right. And here's the skill ups. So it's going to be, instead of damage received, it's going to be changed to this 7 to 10%. I wonder if, I don't know. I'm going to have to test that. I don't know if I'm reading it wrong. You guys are going to have to let me know in the comment section below. It is a passive, just so you know. So that would just be all the time. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And then finally, her ultimate. Again, another underwhelming skill. Currently, attacks with a Nightmare Crystal, decreasing combat readiness of all remaining enemies by 50% when an enemy dies. Sorry, when an enemy dies. So she has to kill somebody in order for this to work, but she's not really used in PvP, so it never takes effect. Damage dealt increases proportional to the number of debuffs inflicted on the enemy. So that was like the one redeeming factor. If you're debuffed all the hell, then this could do big damage. But usually there's nowhere, like there's no debuffs. There's maybe 1 debuff, maybe 2. So you really have to like maybe in low level Abyss you could stack this and get a big damage number out of it, but that was pretty much it. So now, attacks with the Nightmare Crystal and stuns the enemy for 1 turn. That's weird. So a single target stun decreases combat readiness of all remaining enemies by 50% if the enemy is defeated, so that still doesn't matter. And damage dealt increased proportional to number of debuffs inflicted on the enemy. So all they did is they added a single target stun to the effect. So, I mean, like against bosses, which, I mean, really she's kind of designed for because she's all about the poison and the debuffs, and she's single target. She is going to do more damage, but the stun doesn't matter because bosses can't be stunned. So they really didn't change the 3rd skill at all. It's basically the same skill. Unless you try and use her in Arena, then you can get a single target stun. But like at that point, the passive won't come into play. So, I don't know. She's kind of underwhelming. Yeah, if you are using her in Raid, then maybe she can get a 50% attack buff, potentially, which would be nice, but the application of that attack buff I don't think is going to be very good. I think that still makes her one of the worst units, but that's okay. Oxlots, really. That's surprising. I think Oxlots is actually quite good. I'm surprised they're changing him. Maybe he's getting nerfed. Attacks with the Magic Sphere increases attack of the caster by 1 turn. Attacks with the Magic Sphere increases combat readiness of the caster by 15%. So that's a buff. Because, like, increasing attack on himself was kind of pointless because he's not really the attacker. But the combat readiness is nice. It's a nice buff there. It's not huge, but it's something. Mana injection's effect will be changed. Injects an ally with mana and increases attack for 2 turns. And combat readiness by 80%, up to 100%. So, like, that's his big skill. I'm surprised they're changing it, because I think that's an amazing skill. Injects an ally with mana, increases attack for 2 turns. Combat readiness by 100%. So it's automatically 100%. Before increasing the caster's attack for 2 turns. What? Oh, interesting. So, it does the same thing. Injects an ally with mana, increases attack for 2 turns, combat readiness. Attack for 2 turns and combat readiness, yeah. So it's the exact same thing, except it's automatically 100% instead of needing to be upgraded to 100%. And will increase his own attack and combat readiness by 30%. So nice added effect there. They took the attack buff away from the first skill, changed it to a combat readiness increase, and added a combat readiness to the second skill, and added a put the attack buff there. And it's a 2-turn attack buff instead of a 1-turn attack buff. Wow. Attacks all enemies by releasing strong mana with a 50% chance to silence for 1 turn. And now it's a 50% chance to silence for 2 turns. Wow. 2-turn silence is really strong. That's a huge buff to Oxlots. Wow. Oxlots was already really good. If you have Oxlots, congratulations. I'm shocked. I can't believe they actually are buffing him. I thought he was already good. Alright. Yeah, so congrats if you have Oxlots. Kitty Clarissa, 4-star. I think she needed a buff. I'll agree with this. So, Awakened buff duration decrease will increase by a turn. Attacks all enemies with a Morning Star while raging with a 60% chance to decrease buff duration by 1 turn and make them unhealable for 2 turns. If the caster is granted Loveliness, effect chance increases by 20%. Attacks all enemies with Morning Star while raging. 60% chance to decrease buff duration by 2 turns and make them unhealable for 2 turns. Alright, so I don't know why this doesn't just say a strip, because currently I don't think there's any buffs that are over 2 turns. If there are, I can't think of any. Wait. I gotta check now. I'm not sure. I feel like I'm missing something here. Is DN 3 turns? I feel like she is. I don't have DN. I started after the DN banner. I'm literally loading the journal right now because I feel like I'm being an idiot and I should be editing this part of this video out. But I've never noticed if DN's is 2 or 3 turns, but I'm suddenly doubting myself and thinking it's 3 turns. 2 turns? It is 3 turns. Interesting. Okay, so that's why. It's purely for DN. Got it. Yeah, cool. So she strips everybody except for DN. That's nice buff if you've got her. I'm so cute. Meow's cooldown will be decreased by 1 turn, and Loveliness buff will no longer be able to just be dispelled. Okay, that's good. Because the fact that it could be dispelled was kind of bad. So before, wiggles tail cutely, decreasing debuff duration on all allies by 2 turns, and granting the caster immunity and loveliness for 3 turns. Cooldown is 6 turns, can be reduced to 5. So that'll now be a 5-turn cooldown instead of 6, or 4 instead of 5. So that's nice. Adding that little cleanse in there. Assassin Sid, nice. I have Assassin Sid, and he is triple S, and he has basically no gear because I built him, and I was very disappointed in his overall damage. I thought he was going to be a nuker, and basically he did no damage. So I'm going to pull him up here. Swift Action. What is that? Swift Action is his passive, so that's his second skill. When an enemy is defeated, targets the enemy with the least health for 2 turns and increases speed of the caster by 30%. So, alright, let me finish reading the skill. When an enemy is defeated, increases caster's combat readiness by 15% up to 30%, and buffs attack for 1 turn. Can be activated once per turn. Defeated, targets the enemy with the least health for 2 turns. So they're removing the whole targets the enemy with the least health. And they're taking out the speed buff. And they're just increasing his combat readiness and increasing attack. I don't know if that's a buff. It's a change. I don't know. I guess it's a slight buff because the combat readiness is nice. But the combat readiness was like you were already moving up the CR bar because of the speed increase. So honestly, I don't see that as a buff really. It's just a change. Like the speed buff increased damage and the attack buff increases damage, and the CR buff is basically the same as the speed buff. If anything, that's a nerf because the speed buff went up to 50% and the attack buff. Well, I guess attack buff is the same. Interesting. I don't know. So yeah, it's a change. No big deal. Now, Execution is the 3rd skill. Combat readiness decrease effect will be increased. So before, it was attacks the enemy with a powerful ground pound, silencing for 1 turn and decreasing their combat readiness by 30%. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster and enemy speed. Attacks the enemy with a powerful ground pound, silence for 1 turn, decreasing combat readiness by 50%. So it just decreases combat readiness by an extra 20%, which is nice. Like, it's a nice buff. He's still not going to kill anything, really. Man, that's too bad. That's 2 units now that I was really hoping would get good buffs, and I feel like they're the only 2 units that didn't get good buffs. Like, an extra 20% on the cooldown reduction, he's already kind of underwhelming in terms of his damage. I wish they would have increased his damage in some way. And then his passive is just a change, so. Alright. Well, rip. Rip Assassin Sid, you're staying with no gear. That's okay. I've moved on to Kali anyway. Tywin. Interesting. So they're really going crazy on the Wyvern teams. So let's see what they did. All out attacks, decreased defense chance will be increased. That's really nice. I don't have Tywin. And I don't really need him for Wyvern, but that's great. For anyone that's running Tywin in their Wyvern comp, it went from 50% chance to defense break, which could be leveled up to 75%, now to 75% up to 100%. So he can have 100% defense break chance, which is amazing. That's fantastic. I agree with that change. That they had to do that, especially because they're like, if you have them, you're using them there. So Like you're using him because he has a defense break, so not having 100% would kind of suck. So I agree with that. I think he deserves it. Congrats to Tywin. Cecilia, that's surprising. I actually really like Cecilia. Let's see what they did to her. Provoke chance will be increased. Oh, that's amazing. That one I like. So I have Cecilia, and every time I use her, I'm like, ugh, I would use Cecilia more, but her proc chances are so low that it feels like nothing she does ever lands, and so they hurt me, I guess. Attacks all enemies with a spear infused with dark energy with a 60% chance, upgradable to 75 chance to provoke for 1 turn, granting a barrier to the caster for 2 turns. Damage dealt and barrier strength increases proportional to caster's max health. And it's basically everything's the same, except it's been increased to 100%. 100% provoke chance. That's nice. I'm currently checking the skill ups on Cecilia here. So basically that means I will need to do 1 more skill up on her 3rd skill. So I'll have a 90% chance post buff, which is nice. That's a big jump from 65 to 90. I'm all for that. That's amazing. So that'll make her much more reliable now. Her 2nd skill is still only like really low chance to attack break. She's very Malagora hungry, but maybe now with the Malagora changes, this will also make it easier to Malagora her, and I can use her more often. Which I'm assuming is they mention it's the whole point for this update, is allowing you to use more units. So somebody like her is really Malagora hungry, and this change obviously is amazing, going to 100%, but I think the Malagora changes are going to have a huge impact on someone like Cecilia. So happy with that. That'll be interesting to try and use. Basar. Okay, so all they did is they reduced his cooldown by 1 turn. That's great. I was talking to somebody today, and I was saying, I don't have Basar, but I was saying that he would be really good to counter DN because they were having a hard time with DN. And they said that they didn't think so because his cooldown was so long. Well, here you go. You're down to 4 turns at least. That should definitely help in terms of arena. That makes him a little bit better, especially with strips. As you can see with Clury, they extended Clury's strip and they reduced Basar's strip, so that's a really nice buff for him. Zerato. Alright, so Zerato, they've been pushing a lot recently. They just gave him a buff, and now they're giving him another one. So they're changing Ice Pick. Attacks the enemy repeatedly, dealing increased damage when the enemy is debuffed. So that part is remaining, but it also increases the caster's combat readiness by 50%. So essentially just makes him a lot faster. So he will be able to take many more turns because of that. Also, they decreased the cooldown of Iceberg with the stun chance. So it was 50% chance to stun, but it was on a 6-turn cooldown, and that's down to 5-turn cooldown. So I don't know many people that are using Zerato, but if you are, that's a really nice buff for him, reducing his stun cooldown, and now increasing his own combat readiness as well, which essentially is going to make that about a 5 or 4.5 turn cooldown. So that's really nice. I know a lot of people were pairing Zerato with Specimen Says, so if that's your combination, then congrats. Silk getting some love. I like it. I don't use Silk either, but I'm happy about this one. When attacked, concentration effects amount of focus decreased will be reduced. Alright, so before, gains 1 focus at the end of the turn, consumes 2 focus when attacked. If the caster's stacked focus is more than 2, single shot is enhanced to auto fire, and damage dealt is increased. Now, gains 1 focus at the end of the turn, consumes 1 focus when attacked. If the caster's stacked focus is more than 2, single shot is enhanced. Okay, so instead of consuming 2 focus, it consumes 1, basically meaning that she's going to auto fire more often. So that's nice if you are using Silk. I keep clicking on that. Also, storm arrows decrease speed chance will be increased from, what was it? It was 80% to max 95, and now it's 85 to max 100. Okay, so that's a tiny little buff, but it's nice to be 100% instead of 95%. It felt like it was 100% anyway, so basically for her, it's this one, the auto fire is going to proc more often. And if you're relying on her, then not having that 5% miss rate will be nice. Crows it. So same as Tywin, the really working on helping people out with Wyvern 11. Cast a barrier over an ally for 2 turns when an attack causes their health to fall below 50%. Barrier strength increases proportional to target's max health. Can be activated once every 2 turns. Cast a barrier over an ally for 2 turns and increases defense for 2 turns when an attack causes their health to fall below 50%. Barrier strength increases proportional to target's max health. Can be activated once every 2 turns. Interesting. So, how does this apply? For Wyvern, imagine him being, because for him, like, the allies never drop below 50% if he's the tank, right? So if you put him as the off unit and put Aureus on him to protect, for example, Angelica, then this will throw up a shield and a defense buff, which is kind of nice. I mean, it already threw up a shield. Or barrier, quote unquote. But now it adds a defense buff. So, I mean, the thing is, the Wyvern boss strips anyway, right? So, I mean, unless he misses the strip, or, like, I think he can only remove 1 buff at a time. So, I mean, it's either going to be the barrier or the defense buff. It will reduce the amount of damage to your Angelica, but it's going to be rather minimal. So this is a very small buff. I actually want to use him. I'm still going to use him. I want to use him on my baby account, but honestly, this I don't think is going to affect me because I'm going to use the new artifact we just got, the damage reduction. I'm going to put him as the lead, I think, with the new artifact, and just put Angelica as the off heal. We'll have to see though. So at least it gives us options. And that's it for the buffs. So here's the Malagora improvements. Alright, so these is Malagora and Malagora go. March's 4th week update will decrease the amount of Malagoras needed for skill enhancement. We already knew that. So this is what they're going to do. Currently, a Nat 5 takes 68 Malagoras. Is that true? I would have to check that. I didn't realize it was 68 Malagoras. That's crazy. But decreasing it by 30% is a lot. So, as you can see, a Nat 5, instead of needing 68, it's only going to need 48. That's pretty big. 4 stars, going to need 17 less, and 3 stars are going to need 13 less. And as mentioned, the excess Malagoras used to the new decrease requirement will be returned together with gold to the player's inbox. So that's really nice. I know a lot of people are excited for that. It's going to be like Christmas. You're going to have a bunch of Malagoras in your inbox, because things that took a lot, like I was looking at doing my Collie. Her first skill needs a 10%. Her +3 is a 10% damage increase for her first skill, and it's 7 Malagoras. And I was like, really? But now, I mean, at 30% less, it's a couple Malagoras less. Like, it's going to be 5 instead of 7 or something like that. And whatever we've used is going to be refunded, which is even better. So it should help. For those of you that have a lot of units built and you've used a lot of more Malagoras already, it's definitely going to help you gear other units as well, or Malagora other units. Molagor Go exchange improvements. Players will now be able to exchange 4 for 1 with the normal section of the in-game shop, which means that Goblicus and Hoochie will no longer sell Molagor Go's, and Hoochie's charms will now be discounted. So they already mentioned that. But that's a really nice change, being able to buy charms at a decreased price. And when you need to get a Molagor Go, you don't need to wait and try and find one in the shop. You can just go and get one automatically. So that's really nice. Arena 2 season launch. Okay, so it looks like they messed this up a little bit. It looks like they planned on launching this to start March, and they just edited it from March 4th's update to March's 4th week update, because on schedule here it says Arena Launch Season 2 4/1, which I bet you if I look at a calendar, oh, it isn't. That's weird. March 1st was a Friday. It says Monday. I don't know how their dates are worked up. I guess that's week 4, day 1, which is a Monday. I don't know. That's an interesting calendar system they've got there. But anyway, Arena Season 2 launch on Monday is going to be at server reset. So this Monday, according to this Monday is going to be the start of the new season. Arena Season 2, the shop will open on Thursday after the update. Okay, so you can't buy anything from the new shop until Thursday, but the Arena Season will reset with the server reset on the Monday. Good to know. Addition of Glory Crest, a new form of currency called Glory Crest will be added with the launch of Arena Season 2. Glory Crest can be obtained at the end of each weekly ranking change, amount depending on player's league, and will be reset at the end of the season. Okay. Reason Season 2 shop opening exclusive items can be purchased with Glory Crest and Conquest points, so you need both, apparently. The Unknown Slate, exclusive equipment, exclusive hero frames, decreased costs of charms in the Conquest point section of the shop. Okay, so charms being less expensive is nice, and I think you can get more Conquest points for like win streaks and stuff, so buying charms from there is going to be a lot easier now, which is nice. I hope they tell us what the gear is. It doesn't look like they're going to. It is level 88, which is amazing. Hall of Fame, first, second, and third highest ranked players based on the cumulative data of Arena Season 1 will be added to the Hall of Fame. Okay. Unfortunately, won't be me anytime soon. Time of the subject will be changing depending on the status of the cumulative data collection. Okay. No big deal. Okay, new powder shop coming this Wednesday. What do we have? Ooh, this is a big one. Alright, so, new powder shop. Scythe, Elbrus Ritual, Arnel, Celestine, Elsfist, Aureus, Caladra, and Hargana. That is a lot of good artifacts in there. Wow. So, hope you've been saving your potions and you haven't been wasting them, because that is a lot of good stuff in there. If you don't have any of those, they're all good. I'm probably going to go for that Arnel, try and max out my Arnel. I have a level 21 currently. I would love to get 3 more of these. There's no way I'm going to have enough potions. I might be able to get 1. And then I'll have to finish it with the Bottle of Knowledge moving forward. But my Caladra, my Aureus are already maxed. My Rosa Hargana is already maxed. And I already have Scythe and Elbrus Ritual. So I'm going to be on the Arnel for sure. We will see how many potions I can scramble to get together. Does it say? No, it doesn't say how long it's going to be there for. That's cool though. There's an issue where the 4-star artifact Layla Valin was remove the target's buff before attacking, so now be fixed. 40% chance to dispel 1 buff from the enemy after attacking. Okay, so it was doing it in the wrong order. That's a good fix. Package price update. Okay, so basically based on current exchange rates, they're changing the prices of the packages. I guess that makes sense. I didn't know that they didn't do that, so that's cool. Lots of information here. Hopefully whoever you guys have got a buff. Hopefully it was a good one. Again, if you guys can clarify what you think about Spectre Tenebria's patch here, I would love to hear what you have to say, because that one's kind of confusing out of all of them. I know I'm kind of biased because I have her, and I hate on her a lot, and for a good reason. But I'd be curious what you guys think about this passive change, if I'm reading it correctly or not, and if so, if it's going to have any application, because I don't really see it. It's like she's kind of supposed to be for both. Like, they made her passive for bosses, and then they tried to make her third skill for PvP, and basically when you put the two together, she doesn't work. But you guys will have to let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you all next time. Bye for now, guys.